Okay, so now we look at the humoral immune response. Okay, so let's say if the question asks you to explain humoral immune response. So firstly, the first point you have to explain how, okay, pathogen will be engulfed by the antigen presenting cell. Okay, macam yang saya dah explain dalam previous video. Maksudnya daripada point 1 sampai point 8. So you have to explain that one first. And then barulah kita akan sambung dengan this point. Okay, so for humoral immune response, okay, actually the antigen also will bind to the receptor on B cell. Okay, and then if you look at the B cell, so actually B cell is also one of the antigen presenting cell. So on the surface of the B cell, okay here, okay, on the surface of the B cell, it has the receptor for the antigen. So this antigen will bind to the receptor on the B cell. And then what happened to the antigen? This antigen will be degraded into fragment. Okay, so since B cell is also one of the antigen presenting cell, so B cell consists of class 2 MHC molecule. So what happened to the antigen fragment? Antigen fragment will bind to the class 2 MHC of the B cell and it will be displayed on the surface of the B cell. Okay, so once MHC antigen complex is already displayed on the surface of the B cell, so the activated helper T cell means that the helper T cell which is activated by the secretion of interleukin 1 by the macrophage. Okay, so this activated helper T cell will bind to the MHC antigen complex and it will secrete interleukin 2. So means that activated helper T cell will secrete interleukin 2 when it is bind to the B cell. Okay, through the MHC antigen complex. So the function of the interleukin 2, it will activate the B cell. So once B cell is already activated, so B cell will be proliferate and differentiate into plasma cell and also memory B cell. So plasma cell will produce and secrete antibody that later will bind with the antigen, while for memory B cell, it will respond during second infection of the same antigen. Or this one we call as second immune response, secondary immune response. Okay, so what is the function of humoral immune response? It will defend body against extracellular antigen. Okay, so remember, if the question asks you to explain humoral immune response, so jangan lupa first point, awak mesti kena explain dulu pathogen invade body sampailah how helper T cell is activated. And then barulah kita akan sambung dengan this point. Okay? Okay, so now we proceed to cell-mediated immune response. Okay, so remember how cytotoxic T cell is activated. It is from the secretion of interleukin 2 from the helper T cell. Okay, so maksudnya sama juga kalau soalan dia minta awak explain cell-mediated immune response. So first of all, awak mesti kena explain dulu the point whereby pathogen invade body sampailah how helper T cell is activated. Barulah kita sambung dengan this point. Okay. So, once helper T cell is already activated, so activated helper T cell will secrete interleukin 2 and it will activate the cytotoxic T cell. Okay, actually cytotoxic T cell also we call as killer cell. Okay, then what happened to the activated cytotoxic T cell? It will proliferate and differentiate into active cytotoxic T cell and also memory cytotoxic T cell. Okay, so since cytotoxic T cell is already active, so this cytotoxic T cell will bind to MHC antigen complex, okay, in specific class 1. Why class 1? Because cytotoxic T cell will take action to the infected cell. So what is infected cell? This cell is already invaded by the antigen. So once kita kata antigen is already enter the cell, so this cell we call as infected cell. Okay, so infected cell can be any cell in our body. For the example, contohnya macam liver cell, kidney or muscle cell. Okay, so usually in our cell, okay, selalunya kalau untuk sel selain daripada sel yang relate to the immune system, so the cell consists of class 1 MHC. So that's why dekat sini dia bracketkan class 1 because class 1 will be present in every cell in our body. Okay, so that's why what happened to the active cytotoxic T cell, it will bind to the MHC antigen complex in specific class 1 on infected cell via T cell receptor with the aid of CD8. Okay, next, the binding will cause the cytotoxic T cell to release perforin. So this is perforin. So the function of the perforin, it will form pores in infected cell. So dia akan membentuk pores, okay, on the surface of the infected cell. Okay, and also it will release enzyme. So this is the enzyme that break down the infected cell. So the enzyme that will be released from the cytotoxic T cell we call as granzyme. So the granzyme will enter the infected cell by endocytosis. So what happened? Okay, to the infected cell, later the infected cell will be ruptured and die. So that's why we call cytotoxic T cell as killer cell because of what it will cause. Okay, the mechanism of action of the cytotoxic T cell, it will bind to the infected cell and it will cause the infected cell to be destroyed or to be ruptured and die. Okay, so for cell-mediated immune response, actually it will defend the body against intracellular antigen or intracellular pathogen. Kalau kita bezakan dengan humoral immune response, it will defend the body against extracellular antigen. Okay.